Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can see and hear us okay. Where's the feedback coming from? Is it me or you?
I think it's you. I don't think it's me.
Oh, okay. Is that okay?
Yes, I can't hear anything.
Okay. Good afternoon, guys. We've got Jay, we've got Ben, we've got Yvonne, Mark have all joined us on YouTube. Say hello and let us know if you can see and hear us okay. Hi, Chris. Good to see you. Right, so usual drill. If you're watching on YouTube, can you let us know that we're live and you can see and hear us? If you are watching on one of the Facebook groups, could you let us know if we are live and you can see and hear us, if that is okay? Right, I'm logging into like a million different things now, so I can get all the information. So we don't miss any comments or anything like that. Hi guys. If you get the chance, make sure you fill out the StreamYard thingy majig.
Yes.
That's the technical thing.
StreamYard thingy majiggy.
Yeah, absolutely, totally.
It's live on Facebook this week because obviously that was a disaster last week.
Well, what happened?
It didn't go live, did it? Do you not remember?
No.
But you weren't very well, so I think you were a bit.
Yeah, that was the least of my problems. At that moment in time, that was definitely the least of my problems. Hi guys, hi Joe, good morning, hi Janet, just saying hello to everyone. Right, guys, I need to know the big facts this week are, this is busy Easter week. I've done some data checking. I haven't sold a single Easter egg, full transparency. I haven't sold anything Easter related this year. So I don't have any personal experience of it. And Matt, I'm sure that you are not in the world of Easter egging. So
no,
definitely not. So the big news is today, if you are selling Easter eggs, tell us all about it. How's it going? How are those Easter egg sales? Because literally anything on the Easter front just looks like it's absolutely blowing up at the moment. So Jay says no Easter sales either. I think do you know what, last year was a little bit of I think people got a little bit burned the year before by advent calendars and Easter eggs. And I think maybe this year people are kind of maybe staying away from them a little bit. But the people that I know that have gone into these areas, some people I know that went deep on, kind of seasonal stuff last year, like literally have been absolutely killing it in these areas at the moment. So Cindy said, literally just realized it was Easter this Sunday. Me too. So I dropped last night. I went to Max's football match and I went into Asda on the way back because I had that realization. Oh my God, it's Easter and I'm not prepared to pay Amazon prices. So I was like, oh, it's Easter. So I'm going to have to go into Asda. And it literally, the shelves were almost bare from Easter stuff. Yeah. And I thought, who is buying Easter stuff? Because it just doesn't even feel like Easter. So it's really weird.
It is weird, actually. You're right. It is a bit weird.
Yeah. So I
mean, it is Easter Sunday, like on Sunday. So
yeah, it's Good Friday this Friday, funnily enough, as well. So yeah, absolutely. Right. Let me go into like I said, I've got about a million different apps open. Oh, it's Ben that said hi. Hi. Scott that says good morning, or afternoon. Yeah, sorry. Well, it depends where you are in the world.
It does actually, yeah. You're in America, some morning.
Absolutely. I've got my blur on today because literally my office is loaded with rubbish because we're having a little bit of a clear out, Easter spring clear out. So everything's getting piled in here. So I thought the simplest thing to do was just to put it on a shove it all in here and then put it on a blur. So that's why. Mark says, do Easter eggs sell after Easter if at a really low price? Have been offered a lot of clearance egg, haven't checked Keeper yet. They absolutely do, 100%. So but not at a low price. It's one of those type of things that I think there are just like some people in the world that just prefer eating Easter eggs to actual chocolate because they taste better. It's a scientific fact. So you will find,
that's why, scientific fact.
Oh, there we go. It's science, guys. Come here for all your scientific updates.
Yeah,
for sure. So let's have a quick look. South coast of England So it's right in the afternoon. Absolutely. Up north is a completely different time zone.
Yeah. It's only the morning. It's only the morning up here.
Yeah. Is it light?
Yeah, still daylight. Yeah, we get
Candles.
about 3 hours of daylight this time of year. Yeah.
Got your candles all.
Yeah, we don't have electricity up here. Yeah, no, it's not made it this way.
David says hi, welcome David. Cindy's just asked about what days we give the VAs off. Is it Thursday, Friday and Monday? So it's Holy Week, so they do get a snowing up north. Yes, we have given time off this week, but I'm going to be honest, I can't remember what we've given off. It's definitely Friday and Monday, and I think it was last Monday as well, but it's Easter is one of their really big celebrations in terms of the holidays that they get. It's almost as big as, I actually think they get more holiday time at Easter than they do at Christmas. So, yes, they do. So I'm not 100% sure. Matt Cromie, if you are watching, let us know. Or anyone else that runs any VAs, let us know. I know Scott has asked why, but yeah, it's down to the Easter period. It's religious holiday. I think they would call it Holy Week over in the Philippines. So it's part of the culture. It's part, whilst you don't have to give it off, but it's strongly advised by, online.ph and anyone that's kind of working with Filipino VAs that these holidays are respected essentially, but you don't have to. It is the obligation of the employer or the contractor to be able to do it. However, it is strongly advised, and it's one of those things that you just get better out of your workers. I think, if yes, it hits you in the pocket for a few days, but you have to think about it as a sort of long-term decision effectively. So but yes, I don't know what the dates are. I've got to be honest, I don't deal with the teams on the VA side of things anymore. Matt handles all of that, so I'm not sure. So there we go. Added the Filipino holidays to my Google Calendar, the Hive tips. Yeah. Oh yes, I know somebody did put that in there. Was it you, Cindy? I can't remember, sorry. But yes, so we will get that shared definitely. Thanks for that. So yeah, just sorry guys, it's a beautiful day outside. My kids are outside. There's lots of screaming going on. I promise you no one's getting tortured. Don't call Childline or anything like that at all. They're out there having fun. The light is streaming in. It's too hot to shut the window. So I'm like, literally, you have to put up with the kids screaming. So I'm not going to tell them to come in because they're outside enjoying themselves. So if you hear any yelping or screaming, I promise you we're not doing anything untoward. We're not torturing the children. They're just having fun outside for sure.
Yeah, we'll get you on the AI microphone set up next week, won't we?
Yes. Yeah, Matt was like beforehand, he was like, have you got this thing? It blocks out all the noise. And I was like, why? Do you think you can hear the kids? And he was like, yeah, I can hear the kids.
We'll get you that set up next week.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got a few things to run through today, guys. So still no one's, shouting out about all their Easter eggs that they've been selling. But I tell you what, someone's making a killing because literally search volumes are up. Anything sub 100 in BSR, sub 1000 in BSR is egg related at the moment. And of course, there's an increased level of demand, which means that what we normally see this time of year is the BSR is not reflective out of the rest of the time of year. So if you've got something in grocery sub 1000 at this sort of time, it's going to be selling at a much higher rate than it will do, say, in July or something like that. So, it's ebbs and flows definitely throughout the year. So now if you see, for future reference, for Mark was talking about for data, whilst the last 30 days will be quite reflective of seasonality, you will find the next 30 days are not going to sell as many physical units as the previous 30 days in those kind of areas. And I think that's the deep understanding of how BSR works, how seasonality is affected, looking at all of the different data that sellers need to understand. I think a lot more people are aware now than they used to be. That was quite groundbreaking talk a couple of years ago. But I do think the majority of people understand it now. But it's whether or not it gets through to educated through to team members and VAs and things like that. So that's something you've always got to be aware of. Just because you may know it, does your team know about it? So that's why you need to be checking in on your team.
I think I struggled with. I have a lot of knowledge that's just built up over the years, and I think I just assume people know these things.
Yeah.
I think actually the longer you run this business, the worse you get, because you start using lingo with like buy boxes, BSRs. Do your team even know what a BSR is? Have you ever explained it to them? It's just a lot of assumed knowledge and acronyms in this business. I think there is in most businesses, but especially this business. And I think that's one of the downfalls is people don't want to say, I don't actually know what BSR means.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really, really funny is I always I'm a jargon buster, because I used to work in call centers years ago, and they were very hot about jargon. You used to get marked down on an assessment if you used kind of jargon words. So I've always been quite aware of jargon, but since coming back into the world of Amazon, even I find myself slipping into it. And I would just love to have that conversation with someone outside of our world, that are like, what the hell are you talking about, guys? It's like,
yeah, we were shipping via FBA, FBM, and it was a top-rated 1% BSR on this particular product with no IP issues. It just like,
yeah, it is. It's a lot of acronyms and a lot of jargon, for sure. And there's a lot going on in this business. And that's part of what I wanted to talk about today, actually, because somebody posted something. I think it was actually in the Hive, and asked a question about scaling. And I thought, wow, what a great subject for Never Mind the Buy Box, because I know that this is something a lot of people have different opinions on. But it's also at the same time, throwing in my political answer, or my politician answer, sorry, is it's one of those things that there isn't really a right or wrong answer. It also depends on the seller. And I'll just say hello to Rosie. Hi, Rosie. Hope you're well. So it's one of those things that you kind of have to look at it as objectively as you can, but at the same time, listen and see what other people are doing it, but kind of go into work in what works for you and what you're going to feel comfortable with. So let me fill everyone in. So what essentially happened, we had a post in the Hive where someone was talking about how the best way to scale, can I have tips for this, and can I have tips for that? And I replied and said about, okay, potentially when you get to this kind of area about the VAT threshold and everything like that, we all know, I think most of the majority of people know, that's a sticky place to be in business. And it can take a little while for you to kind of pull yourself out of that 85,000 to 150,000, which is the danger zone of Amazon. It's where everything changes. It's one of the hardest areas to be in, and people really struggle to scale themselves out of there. So we were talking about that, and I came in and say, okay, well, you may want to consider scaling out through volume. And then Matt said, completely agree. But at the same time, you've also got to take into account that through volume scaling, there are many other pros and cons that kind of go with that as well. So there's a few different caveats with this type of conversation that I just wanted to be able to go through and talk through it, depending on if this is where you are in your business now, how you can look at it kind of objectively, and how you can say, right, if I am going to scale out of it, that's fine. But there are certain things that you need to be aware of. If you're not going to scale out and you're going to go down the margin magic route, which is, to scale through margin, which, to be perfectly honest, is my preferred route. Matt and I are very similar. We both work on high margin models. And we both like the security of high margins and things like that. But it doesn't mean you cannot use one strategy to get you to a certain point and then adapt. Just because you have to go, just because you you use a different type of model to get you to a certain point in your business. I think that's how we've got to start looking at it strategically now, guys. And, that's certainly the part of the reference that we teach through the Hive. It's not a one size fits all when you have to kind of stick with it. I think now the way in 2023 that this business needs to be run is multiple different selling models and strategies and global selling opportunities being implemented at strategic times in your business to get you to certain milestones. Essentially, is that fair enough to say?
Yeah, I think I completely agree. And I think as well, one thing that's important to note is that I think, particularly in communities such as this, whereas people post big sales numbers and it's very motivating, I totally appreciate. Everybody's got a different set of circumstances. They want different things, and also they, in terms of scaling might not be right for you. If, for example, let's take myself. Then for me, scaling a business is very low risk. I've got no kids. We're in I'm in my 30s now, but I was in my 20s when I started this business. I was living with my parents. I had no risk going for it. I could just go for it because there was nothing to lose really. Whereas I get, if you're sort of maybe in your 40s, you've got 2 kids, you've got a mortgage, you're in a very stable job, then the scaling approach, might not be right for you because it's a lot more risky and requires a lot more capital and borrowings and all that kind of thing. So just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean it's right for you, and it doesn't mean that you have any less of a business just because you're not putting out millions of pounds in revenue every year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There are lifestyle choices, and I think going back to that kind of episode that I did on my own a couple of weeks ago, we're talking about looking at things in a slightly different way. And definitely some of the never mind the buy boxes we've got coming up in the future. We're going to talk about that mindset, that ability to be able to recognize the situation and implement it into your business for the good, or for sometimes what might need to be like a strategic decision or things like that. Because I think sometimes the level of strategy that was involved in scaling this business over the last couple of years, well, it's just been sell as much as you can because of COVID. But now that has kind of dried up. What we're left with now is, I think there's a really wide, a huge pool of people in this particular industry that have realized, okay, I can't carry on what has given me and driven the level of growth in my business over the last couple of years, because what was happening is we were having lots of demand and lots of supply. A lot of demand and no supply, which meant the people that had the stock were able to sell it crazy quick for high margins.
Yeah.
Well, that stopped now because supply has increased.
Really interesting point. When COVID first started, we saw a lot of printer ink. And obviously everybody was working from home. The demand for printer ink was astronomical. We put the price up on one product 6 times in a day, because the demand was just off the scale and nobody else had this printer ink and they couldn't go to the shops because they're all shut.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all about being reactive, to this business. And part of the reason why we've introduced the Hive and what will be stocked in the future is, yes, it's good to be reactive. Sorry, I said the wrong word there. I meant proactive. Is a lot of kind of solutions available now, I personally think, are quite reactive solutions. But what we're going to be supplying is definitely on the proactive side. Like your example there, Matt, it's giving you the opportunity. Now, I know that you're very proactive in your business, whereas someone else may have looked at that opportunity with the printer inks and maybe not have the depth of level of experience to be able to say, supply, demand, issue, everybody working home, essentially join all the dots together, and they might be just happy with, wow, I've sold out, I've sold out, and that's it. Whereas now we have to be definitely more strategic in the decisions that we're making in the business for a variety of different reasons. But the most important message that I want to be able to get through today is, this isn't a Cinderella business anymore. The one shoe is not going to fit all. It very much used to be. That's absolutely right. But now you're going to have to ebb and flow with this business, guys. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to be adaptable. If you are not prepared to do that, this will not be the business for you over the next 5 years. Well, probably that's a bit too long term to gauge. Probably the next 3 years. So you have to be prepared to look at different points within your business and say, right, where do I go for expansion? Because it used to just be, oh, okay, I set myself up on eBay for expansion. But actually, there's a lot of strategic things that you want to consider before going out there. And I talk about this quite a lot. So apologies if I'm using the same analogies all the time. But, Russell Bronson, the owner of ClickFunnels, I can't remember the last time I said this. I do so many lives. It might have been last week. I don't know. But I want to, there's a few things that have always really stuck with me. When you have those profound moments when you read something or you hear something or whatever. And when I read the original ClickFunnels book, and I can't even remember what it was called, there were two things that stood out to me in what Russell Bronson said. Whether or not he is the original architect of this, I don't know. I didn't look into it that deep. But for me, he was talking about scaling business, and two clear things that he said when it came to scaling those business is, look at what you're already doing and maximize those areas, develop the income streams with what you're already doing. And it may well be going from arbitrage to bundles or something like that, and then bundles to another area, and then something geographically and whatever, but still within that same kind of Amazon marketplace. But when you've done that, then what you do is you put your prices up on top of that. And then that's the next level of scale. So it's all about strategy and not just a case of casting. I was going to say this, casting your net, because I've just seen Cindy's comment about fishermen. I don't mean it like that, but it used to be about you can throw as much as you want against the wall and see what sticks. Whereas now I think there's a very strategic approach that you can use to scale your business, providing you are aware of what those strategies are, when to implement them, and, managing the expectation of what could happen. Because one of the trappings, Matt, is when you scale through volume, you're not used to, maybe you don't have that much business experience, and all of a sudden cash flow can become an issue, VAT bills can become an issue, everything. So talk us through that. So what are those trappings that people have to look out for?
The thing to remember with more sales, the only certainty is more cost. So the more stuff you buy in, the more you try and sell, the more cost there is. That's the simple fact. This is the only certainty. People assume that because they're making more sales, they're making more profit. This is not necessarily the case. One very common thing that people do is they start leveraging debt in the wrong way. So they go out, they get Amazon loans, they get not so much Amazon, there's more credit cards. This is so people get credit cards. You get an American Express, maybe it's got a 30K limit, maybe it's got no limit. Some of them have no limit. And you go, right, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to buy loads of stuff. Doesn't mean the bad buys. But then you realize is that your prep center can't handle the volume. Amazon's taking 2 weeks to receive your shipments. Then you've got to wait another 2 weeks for your disbursements. Maybe if you're on a 2-week disbursement cycle. That American Express bill's due next month, and you didn't take out a credit card, you took out a charge card. So you've got to find that 30K for the bill next week, and you can't do that because you've got all your stuffs in Amazon. You can't sell it, you can't turn around the cash fast enough, and that can be really, really challenging for a lot of people. And that's one of the biggest pitfalls people find about scaling too quickly, is that they're not able to buy enough stuff to then to sell it quickly enough to then get the cash flow. And you've got to scale much more gradually, buying in, and scale more slowly, because otherwise you can end up with that really, really bad situation of sleepless nights of, don't know how I'm going to pay this bill, don't know where I'm going to get this money from.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely, it's not for the faint-hearted. No. And but I think what you can do, and I think a person who's really, really good at this, someone who's talked about this quite a lot, is Luke Dugan. Scaling. He had a very unique scaling model, which I thought was very, very good. And I'm sure he won't mind me sharing it, is where he would scale by hook or by crook through volume, didn't really care at certain points in the month whether he was making money or anything like that. It was just about scale, 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 increase the cash flow. And by the way, there's more depth to this. So don't you guys go out and take out 100 grand and go, well, Natalie said scale. Luke Dugan does it. It's fine. There's more depth to it. But the overall, sort of concept is you scale, scale, scale. Then you stop and you analyze. Okay. And you see what works, what doesn't work. You scale back what doesn't work, and then you do more of what does. And that's the approach that I, adopt to a lot of things as well. And I think that, I think overall, it doesn't matter if, volumes in important. It's always important to have a point in your business where you have that deep level of analysis, where you look at it and say, right, let's get rid of what doesn't work and let's do more of what does work. You can't get any more basic than that, but we forget to do it because we get so caught up in the in the sales trap. For sure, because we all love that turnover. The turnover is vanity and profit is sanity. That actual saying, you couldn't embody it any further, to be perfectly honest. So it is really important to know the trappings along the way, know what you're doing, and know that you're doing it with strategy as well, because sometimes there's a week in everyone's business where you have to go through your stock and you have to strategically sell it, which means that actually the part of the strategy that week or that month is to make a loss because you need to recover the cash flow. So it's important that you make sure that you're aware of that, you know what you're doing, and you're following a plan essentially throughout the year. And I think also that comes down to the fact where people feel in this business, because we're also addicted at refreshing the Amazon seller app, refreshing our sales figures, that we only feel that we're as good as our last day. But if you have been in this business for more than a year, probably 18 months, actually just over a year, that's probably unfair to say, you need to start looking at this business on an annual basis and not, oh, I had a bad day yesterday. Well, why did you have a bad day? Okay, that's why. Okay, so it's not a day-by-day business essentially anymore. It used to be, but I think the Amazon seller has absolutely evolved to a much higher producer in business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Here's some really, really great points there. I think with strategy of losses as well, timing's really important as well. A lot of people don't think about the timing. So I mentioned this last week about financial years. So currently our financial year is the 31st of March. So for making losses, strategic losses, is to put some at the end of last year and some at the beginning of this year. They were therefore spreading the loss over 2 financial years. Just that little bit of timing makes a massive difference to the finances of the business. No, it doesn't affect what, the real situation, but how it appears on paper can have a really big impact. And that can then affect what credit you get, profitability of business. So it has a big knock-on effect. A really good thing as well about you said about the margins, scaling with margins. I think a lot of people, when you scale with low margins, you've got to be really on top of your costs, because there's no margin for error. Bit of a pun there, but there is no margin for error. If you've got 30-40% markup and you forgot to factor in your advertising costs, or you forgot to put your prep costs in, or you forgot to put your VA costs in, there's probably some margin there. If you're on 5-10% margin, you're thinking, oh, this is great, I'm doing 100K a month in sales. Who honestly does a P&L every week? Who does one every month even? I bet most people don't do a proper profit and loss every week, which is really what you should be doing if you're properly analyzing your business, is looking at your profits every week. And of course, you take that with a pinch of salt, but you should be looking if you're making profit. And if you're not on the numbers that much, and you're doing this really low margin business, you probably get to the end of the year and your financial accountant puts your statement together and goes, "Oh, you made a 20K loss last year." And you've got, how? I did £1 million to sales. Well, yeah, but you didn't factor in your advertising costs. You forgot your VAs cost you £1,000 a month. You forgot this. You didn't include this. And you didn't include the prep costs, and you could be running at a loss. So it's just really, really important when you are running a low margin scaling business that you are really on top of them numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest and one of the most common queries I get people coming to me with is they have massive turnover businesses, but they simply just don't make any money and they live in the security of their cash flow, which doesn't often, it really, really doesn't often reflect how your business is running. It doesn't do any favors, unfortunately. Matt's absolutely right with high margin stuff. And by the way, we both are high margin, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're saying for that, because I know people are massively successful in different areas in business. It's just we both have, if I was on here with Johnny or Johnny was on here with Matt,
Yeah.
Johnny does high volume, low margin models. So he'd have a slightly different perspective on it, potentially. And but from our point of view, margin brings security. It definitely does. And I like the high margin model purely because of what you've just said, Matt, there. Sometimes if you forget to put your cogs in, not your cogs, but your prep, or you forget to do this or you forget to do that, there's so much movement there in terms of your profit. When you're running at, 30% net margin, at the end of the day, a lot can be forgiven in terms of
Yeah.
business. So now we do run a type ship, luckily I've got Matt, otherwise it would be constantly checking in certain things. But at the end of the day, I don't worry, I don't sweat the small stuff on margins, because I know that we've got so much security in the products that we sell and the margins that we produce. And to be perfectly honest, like if I need to dump a load of stock at minus, again, I don't sit and ponder over it for too long, because at the end of the day, I know I've got the security and the margins to be able to absorb that. So having that freedom of choice is actually really good. Now, of course, you can't continue doing that, but we tend to do, I know Johnny does a lot more margin mixing, I know you do a lot more margin mixing, whereas us in our business, we tend to sell high or low. There's not much difference in because we've got so much security in the high margins that we sell. So, and that works for us. So again, that's a different strategy in itself. So this is what I'm trying to say and get through to everyone. The profit is in you. I see both sides of the coin here. Some people say the profit is when you buy. Some people say the profit is when you sell. Now, obviously, we're not talking about sourcing today, because that's something completely different. Because I think it's too much of a blanket statement to say the profit is when you buy in this in a market that, if we're talking about traditional arbitrage, that you cannot fully control.
Yeah.
So the profit is not in the buy at that stage. The profit is in the sell. Whereas the profit is in the buy for bundles and listings that I control, because I can control the price, obviously. So from that point of view, again, that's a different strategy in itself.
Yeah.
There's so many different strategies. You can overwhelm yourself with them. But I think as long as you know what you're doing at certain points in your business, it's almost like following a blueprint, essentially.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong answer here, is there? This is the thing. It's not simple to say, oh, you should margin mix, you should have high, you should have low. There's lots of different answers here. And it's kind of trialing to see which one works for you, because particularly with low margin, you can systemize it. I would say probably probably systemize a lot easier, because you're probably buying from wholesalers, you're buying the same products. Higher margin probably takes more work, because you're having to find better deals, you have to negotiate harder. So there's kind of give and take there. Depends what you want to do. If you want a very hands-off business, maybe the low margin approach is right for you, because it's probably easier to do a low margin business and do high turnover as long as you can get the cash. Whereas high margin takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of negotiation. It takes bundles, which is why your margin is so high, because of the bundles you do. You're creating your opportunities. For me, it's my sourcing and my relationships. I put a lot of work into relationships, which gives me access to better deals, which is where we get our margin from. But that takes a lot of work, a lot of travel, a lot of meeting suppliers. So there's no right or wrong answer as to what strategy is best here for your business. It's very much about your lifestyle, your current situation, and your aims and objectives, and a lot of people as well. Again, going back to the younger people, for example, if you're in your 20s and you don't need to take a big salary. You can go for the higher margin approach, the scale, because you don't need to take the money out of the business. Whereas if you are dependent on this money, this is your only income, Amazon, you got kids, you don't have a job, or you've got a part-time job, or you need the money, you're doing this because you need the money to live, then I would say a high margin approach may suit you better because you're making more money for every pound you spend, and you'll be able to draw more out of the business potentially.
Absolutely. So moral of the story, guys. Yeah, everyone's different.
Yeah.
You just need to work through and decide what works for you. I mean, luckily, if you're a member of the Hive, I'm going to lay all this out in the next quarter in terms, no, not the next quarter, this quarter, because we're in Q2 now. If you are a member of the Hive, then what I'm going to do is for the first time ever that I've seen anyone do, which, I mean, I don't watch that much, so someone might have done it. But I'm literally going to lay out blueprints, opportunities, different strategies, different, when you can scale at certain points. And I'm really looking forward to doing that because I've never done that before. And it's all based on proven experience, people I work with, people, within our own business as well. So it's definitely going to be helpful for those that kind of struggle to scale, but not sure which kind of route to be able to go down. Now, the thing is with this business is whilst there's no one size fits all, like I said, you don't have to be a high volume seller. You will need to scale at some point in your business. It's as simple as that. You have to scale at some point in your business because of rising costs, increased staffs. Like Matt said, the more you sell, the more costs are involved. That's the only certainty when it comes to it. But yeah, so just wanted to go through that, highlight the difference. And if you are going down that route and you're not in the Hive and we're not holding your hand through it, then just make sure you're aware of what strategy you're using to do it and what the potential pros and cons are. Is it the right time to be able to, a lot of people use seasonality to be able to scale. That's a great time to be able to use it as well. So just make yourself aware, expose yourself to all of the different strategies and and selling models and things like that, and do it in a strategic way. Let's see what Cindy said. Cindy, 100%. I love the story of the fisherman who gets approached by someone saying, if you bought more boats, you could get more fish and sell more. Then one day you'll be able to relax and spend time with your family. And the moral of the story was the fisherman already had enough and was doing everything the businessman said he could have done by growing. Perfect example of that, of working smarter, not harder. And I've seen that approach with so many people. A lot of the time, if you come to me and ask me for advice, if you're one of these people that have got a high turnover, but you've just got through your end of year accounts and it says that you're minus 10% margin or something like that, probably the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is scale down your business, not scale it up.
Yeah, it's really important. That's a really important point. Sometimes you have to go backwards to go forwards. Last year, for example, in our business, we implemented this new Limwork system, and it took 2 months out of our business, and we went backwards for 2 months. Our sales were down like 30%, but that was a strategic move. And then now this month, a year later, we're now up 68% on last year. So obviously that move was strategically a good move. But at the time, you would be looking at a business and go, why are you going backwards? Why are you not growing? Sometimes you have to go backwards to go forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely, like Hayden says, the strategy that Luke uses. He's got great knowledge about scaling with low margins to be able to ensure that he has the security there that he needs to be able to make the right decisions moving forward. Hayden says it's raining in Greece today, but we don't care, and we don't feel sorry for you. So stop trying to get our sympathy. We don't care about that at all. By the way, guys, Hayden's going to be joining me on Nevermind the Buy Box next week, and we're going to be talking through quite a lot of mindset stuff, mindset breakthroughs, something Hayden's had the most transformative year, and I wanted him to come on and talk about some of the experience that he's had, through his own admission of, being in a bad place mentally with business in terms of, that mindset and how you felt about certain things, and what a difference realizations can make in business when you have those breakthroughs, to be able to realize that you've had those breakthroughs, because sometimes we can be very, very dismissive of our own success or of our own achievements. And yes, they might not always be, wow, I did £1 million yesterday at 40% net margin, and I did this and I did that. Sometimes the biggest wins we can make in our business are the smallest ones. And you just need to have like a win, and you need to recognize it's a win, and what can you do more of that to implement into your business. So it's not always about big, actually most of the time I don't think it is about big wins. I think it's about the realization, and then going through the process of what effect that can have on your mindset. So I'm really looking forward to next week's Never Mind the Buy Box, and having Hayden on when he's back from Greece, and coming back to our lovely weather, our lovely, beautiful weather.
It's sunny here, so there.
Oh, is it finally sunny?
It's sunny. It's sunny all day here. It's just really cold.
Have we got out of the northern time difference?
No, yeah.
Yeah, the northern circle. Where we've got the time difference. We were talking to Johnny this morning, and he's flying home today from South Africa, and Matt was like, "Oh, get yourself wrapped up." And
I was sat in the meeting, because obviously it's freezing here. It was like it froze last night, and I was sat in my coat and my jumper. I'd turned the heating on, and he was like, "Is it cold there?" I was like, "Yeah, it's really cold."
And I was like, we're bathing in the southern sun. It's like, we're definitely King's Landing down here, and you're definitely the Wall.
I'm not north of the Wall, but I'm up north.
Oh, what's the other one then? Someone remind me. What's the Stark one? You're the Starks.
Yeah, with the Starks. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember. Just south of the Wall.
We're not north of the Wall. No.
No, they're the wildlings. We'll forget about those for the moment. Scott said, do you think a lot of people get stuck in the charge card trap? That's a great question, Scott. And I hope you're hanging around long enough to hear the answer to this, because I think we definitely both agree on this. But Matt, you shoot. I'll let you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that the thing is people use these cards to take advantage of the rewards, which is absolutely what you should do. But I think the problem is that you're fighting against the card company, because the card company wants you to be in debt. It doesn't want you to earn rewards, because that costs them money. They make money when you're in debt. So they're always going to be like, oh, here's some more credit. Here's some more credit. Here's some more credit. Or as long as you keep spending and keep paying it off, here's some more credit. Here's some more credit. And then eventually I think you get to a stage where you have too much credit, and therefore you can't do anything with that credit. And if you spend it, you end up having surplus, and you can end up in a trap if you can't turn over that stock quickly enough. It's about being really disciplined, and it's really, really hard. I mean, even myself, I'm nowhere near perfect. There's been times when we overspend a lot, and it's because the deals are there, and I'm always getting deals, and then sometimes it's like, but the staff haven't got enough time to work these deals. So is it actually a deal if your staff haven't got time to deal with it, or your prep centers at capacity? So yeah, it can be a trap if you're not careful.
I think the biggest trap that charge cards offer, in particular, because charge cards generally have no limit on them, is the overspend. That ability to be able to, like, oh God, that's burning a hole in your pocket. It's a bit like what we were talking about earlier, Matt, end of year. Right, what do we need to spend in order to get that corporation tax bill down? Spend. So sometimes it can be detrimental. You're better off potentially paying the tax as opposed to doing the spend, because you're limiting your cash flow, which might prevent you from being able to pay off your charge card credit bill. And I think what happens, especially if you've leveraged debt to grow your business in this way, through the credit cards, and it happens to everyone gets a bit spend happy. And then what happens is you feel like the money's in the bank, so therefore you've got to spend it. But then at the same time, once you've spent it, the stock goes in, the price goes down, then you don't want to sell either. So you're kind of stuck between that rock and a hard place, where you've spent the money, you've removed the cash flow, the bills are coming, but you don't want to sell, or you're hesitant to sell, because you're not thinking that you're going to sell at the price that you bought it at. But again, you need to realize think about it, guys. Really sit down and think about this for a moment, because again, talking about mindset shifts or mindset realizations, this is it. How often, and I'd love to know people's thoughts on percentage of this, how often do you think you sell a product at the price that you source it at, in terms of what you think you're going to sell it at? I'd be incredibly surprised if it's less than 10% for anyone.
Yeah,
And,
I think I would agree. Often, I think as well, we're always that bit optimistic. We look at the keeper chart and we go, so we see the low price and we go, right, well, we're going to worst case, we're going to say, let's say there's a product, you pay £10 for it. Lowest it's been is £29.99, highest it's been is £59.99. Well, it's going to be £50, isn't it? It's going to be £59.99.
That's me.
Never the £29.99 price point. It's always that you're always going, I'm going to sell for £60. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm guilty. Matt told me off for that yesterday because I was buying some replens in the business, and he said to me, "Oh, why have you bought that?" And I said, "Well, look at the price. It was, whatever it was at that point." And he said, "Yeah, but look at the price previously before that. It's never been that." And obviously the price had gone down and blah, blah, blah. And I had a moment of lapse where I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I hope he's not watching now, because I don't want him to admit that, he was right and I was wrong on that. But I'd previously sold it. It was a replen. So I'd previously sold it at that higher price. But it was quite obvious because there was a stock shortage. That's why it happened. Everyone's come back into stock. The price has plummeted, blah, blah, blah. So obviously it's definitely something that, you always have to be aware of. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that when it comes to that, you've got to be prepared. If you are scaling your business through debt leverage, then you have to be prepared to sell. And that is getting your head around that you're probably not going to sell it at the price that you intended. Oh, damn, he's watching. He's always watching. That you're probably going to find that you're probably not going to sell it at that price. So it's really important to, as soon as you press, buy order, that you are aware that you will probably have to sell at least 60% of that stock going in at a much lower price than you've anticipated, in order to keep the cycle of cash flow going. Okay. You can't sit on it all, unfortunately. You can't wait the assholes out all the time, unfortunately. Again, you've got to employ the different strategies at different point in your business. Otherwise, as Scott has correctly pointed out, you get in the charge card trap. There's no doubt about it. Dan says it sounds very similar to Amazon loans. The company needs to take out bigger and bigger loans to survive. And I think that's hitting the nail on the head.
I think the loans are worse than the credit card, because with the credit card, you don't necessarily feel as much obliged to spend it because it doesn't cost you anything, generally speaking. Whereas with the loan, you get the money and you feel obliged to spend it to make a return on that, because it's costing you money. If you're paying 8-9% interest, your immediate thought is, right, I need to get a return on this money. I'm going to go out and buy. And I think it potentially gives you bad buying decisions because you have too much money. I found personally, I'm guilty of this. When I get a loan in, I make really bad decisions because I have all this money. And I go, oh, we need to get it working, need to get it spending. My best purchases will come when I've got no money. When we're on the lower side of the cash flow, quiet times a year, that's when I make really good purchases because I haven't got the money. When I've got that big 100k Amazon loan coming in, I'm just like, let's go spend.
Make it rain.
Make it rain. But it's true, and I think that's one of the worst things about it is you're instinctively like, I need to get this money working for me. I need to get this return to pay off the interest, because that's the whole purpose of it.
And how smart are Amazon? Because they only allow you to take the full amount of the loan. People would not be in, people wouldn't get themselves in as much trouble on the Amazon loan side of things if they didn't have to take the full amount of the loan. And it costs so much money to pay it back before the term. That's why if you are going to leverage, I agree with that. Credit cards are better. This is not financial advice. We're not telling anyone to do this. But again, think about it. This is the narrative of today's session. It's not just about making decisions based on gut or whatever. There has to be strategy to the majority of the decision. Oh, Debbie says I've
No,
not
you
taken
can,
the.
you can take lower amounts.
Oh, can you? I
Yeah. It's in
wasn't
the
aware of that.
settings. Yeah, it's in the settings, but obviously no one does because they offer you the full amount. It's funny. I think again, it's like it is right. It's psychology. So most loans, like if you go to the bank, they say how much do you want, and you go, I'll take 25,000, for example, because that's what I can work with. That's what I need. Amazon go, this is the most we can lend you. So you're gonna go, oh, that's way more than I thought. I'll take it. That's the psychology play. The majority
Yeah.
of lenders you go to do not offer you a loan. They will say, how much do you want to apply for? And then they will say yes or no. Whereas with the Amazon lending, it's like, here's 300,000. I bet you never thought you could have this much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Yeah, I thought I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but Jay said Thomas Parkinson did a video where he took half of his loan. Yeah, that's probably because his loan was like £1 million or something like that. Whereas most people, if you get offered like 30 grand, you're probably not going to take 15. But strategic borrowing at the right time can actually really help. And it's definitely, Debbie says definitely useful when cash flow is tight. But to do it the most sensible way. So well done, guys, for the restraint in some of you, because I see a big bunch of cash and I'm like, yeah.
Can I just go back to the card thing as well? One thing for me is I don't like charge cards for two reasons. One, they don't have a limit, and two, they have to be repaid. Now, a credit card, even if it's got a stupid crazy percent APR, has the option to be repaid over multiple repayments. And I think psychologically, mentally, for your mental health, that is much better, because there's nothing worse than if you've overspent on a charge card and you cannot repay that money. You're going to have sleepless nights. You're going to have debt worries. You're going to drive you mad. Whereas with a credit card, worst case, you're going to pay a stupid amount of interest. Yes, it might wipe your profit out, but it's the mental stress is not going to be the same. You're going to be frustrated at yourself that you're paying loads of interest, but it's not that it's got to be repaid. So if anyone said if you get the same deal on a credit card or a charge card, again, this isn't financial advice. This is just my opinion. I would always go for the credit option over the charge card option for that little bit of mental security.
Oh, that is a big golden nugget there, guys. Definitely. And I don't think people are aware of that. So well done. Yeah, thanks for that, Matt. Really appreciate it.
It's lived experience. I've done it. I got charge cards and I've overspent on them and gone. I mean, I've managed it, but it was stressful. And the problem as well is it distracts you from your business because your whole focus is on how can I get this money, and you're not thinking about how I can run business in the best way. Again, the credit card option, yes, it might have like 200% APR and it might cost you £1,000 in interest, but that's a month's profit rather than your mental health, and your mental health is more important than profitability.
I wish I had that barrier to mental health would like stop me spending. I feel massively like unqualified to be having this conversation. I feel like a massive fraud in the sense that because I have no restraint when it comes to spending any money whatsoever. Matt handles all of that side of things. He keeps me in check. He keeps me online, and I'm not allowed to, have any credit cards willy-nilly or anything like that, because I'm definitely a spender. It's part of the reason why I'm bringing arbitrage so much back into the business, so I can get that buzz of feeling like I'm spending a lot of money again. That's what I always loved about it before. It ticks that box if you're a spendaholic for sure. Mark said,
a really interesting comment. Yeah, I'm going to put this one up as well. So this is kind of, I'm not sure who this is, and if you can see who this is.
This is Scott.
It's Scott, yes. If you're spending on a charge card, you're the only one to blame. We have a charge card and it keeps us careful. We have the option to pay the minimum. Would we be as careful? Yeah, again, psychologically. Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is I think we have to recognize our weaknesses. Obviously you are very financially disciplined and fair play to you, but are we all as financially disciplined? I don't know. If you are financially disciplined, then that's what's the best option. If you're not financially disciplined, then maybe the credit card is the better option there. So I think you just this is about being honest with yourself and realizing, right, what is, what am I like? If I'm a spendaholic in my personal life, then I need to recognize that I'm going to be the same in my business life.
I just love what Matt Cromie's thoughts on this and whether or not he thinks that I'm financially disciplined or not. I would just love to know his thoughts on that. He's going to come up and I'm just going to laugh his head off at me. Seashan's joined us as well. Hi, guys. Got a few people late. Not late, sorry. Feels like I'm telling you off and you're coming to school. People that have joined us towards the end of the broadcast, shall we say. So, yeah, really interesting points here, guys. But again, comes back to everything's subjective. So you have to work what works for you. It's more about awareness than anything else. And like I said, Matt's points earlier about be careful who you watch, and you use that as inspiration. You don't use it as advice, because they might be able to do something massively different to you in that respect, because of your character or personality or anything like that whatsoever. So you shouldn't be carbon copying other people's businesses. You have to take it as inspiration and nothing else, because everybody's different and everybody has different, leverage or whatever. So I think Jay says Tom's loan was 765. Jesus Christ, that is mental. Yeah, that is a lot. Mark said I was offered six, number dyslexia. I was offered 360, but only took 100. Do you know what? It's the language, isn't it? It's like, yeah, I was offered this, but only took 100K. It's like this business makes you so financially unaware. I don't mean financially unaware. Sorry, that's not what I meant.
What you mean. It distorts your perception. I've had this conversation.
It
distorts your perception of money. Like for somebody who, let's say, has a 30K standard job and lives in a £300,000 house, you go, yeah, I just took a 100K loan. They'd be like, what? You did what? And
they'd have to be
get about next month.
My
credit card's like 100K on it, so whatever. It's not blasé, but it's perception of money. I think it's
I'd love to know Sean's thoughts on this, because Sean, and again, I'm sure he won't mind me referring to this on name, who was very anti, leveraging debt. And I know that obviously you've come round to it a little bit more. Do you think, and anyone else can answer this as well, that this business is dangerous for that mindset shift in that respect, for somebody who is very frugal or financially responsible? Do you think it can, kind of put you in a position, or it can force you in a position because your perception of the money changes?
I think it definitely can, personally. And I think as well, the groups don't help that perception, because you feel like you're missing out. Because you understand, you see people leveraging debt to build their business, and then you feel like you're missing out and you feel like you're doing something wrong. And that's not true at all. And it's actually very respectful to people who do grow their business naturally without borrowing money. Potentially, arguably, you're building a better business because you're managing it probably much more tightly. You've not got as much money to chuck around. You can't afford the bad deals because you haven't got the cash flow. So arguably, you're probably building a better business in the long term, but you're going to get there a lot more slowly. I think that's a certainty. We'd all agree that it's going to take you longer to get there without the money and the leverage.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really important point as well. Had we have leveraged through debt, we would probably be, much higher in turnover than we are even now. But we've been selling for such a long time. But you didn't really have the debt leverage, at the start. It's only something that's become super, super popular since, I don't know, the last 3 years, 4 years.
I would say about 2017 onwards, when Amazon started offering loans, because I think the reason was Amazon came into the game. And they started off chucking big chunks of money around. And the difference is then other lenders have had to compete with them offers. I think before, getting 100K, the people here are seeing, you see the size of these loans, like £765,000 is an astronomical loan. Can you imagine walking into Barclays Bank? Oh yeah, I've been going 3 years. I've got a 2 million turnover. Can I have a £765,000 loan?
They'd laugh you out the building.
Have a heart attack, and they'd have to call an ambulance. They'd probably go, "Oh, we can offer you 25,000." I think
Yeah.
that's the difference here is the scale of borrowing. And all the other companies that do loans are then having to go, right, well, if Amazon's doing that, we're going to have to do that. I think
Yeah.
that's the change in it here.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt says no comment, but I knew I was getting into. Absolutely. Yeah. Like my dad always used to say to Matt, you know, he always used to say, you knew what you were getting into. There's no refunds here. That's what he always, no returns. You knew what you were getting into, definitely. Um, So yeah, Sean says, oh, I missed Johnny's comment. For some reason, he shows up on my phone, but not on here. He said, yeah, we only borrowed 40% out of 500k. So definitely you can take a small amount. Yeah, absolutely. Sean says you can leverage debt or grow business naturally and sleep at night, which I completely agree with. There's still good debt, but I've got my company big enough. I've got my capital. Well, I think cap for freebies, knowing that I can pay it on time so I don't pay interest on debt. And that's the interesting thing actually as well. I don't think oh, sorry. Is that me and Matt or me and Matt Cromie? So
Sure. The answer is I slid into Natalie's DMs. That's how I got into business.
Yeah, I don't know if it was me and Matt. Yeah. So which Matt that was, I'm not sure. But yeah, Matt Cromie would have slid into my DMs as well, but in a different way. Found Matt in the garden centre. Stop it. That's got to be Johnny. That's got to be Johnny. Yeah, I did. Found him in the garden centre for sure.
In the gnome section.
Yeah, definitely. Stop it, you guys. Stop being naughty. Stop being naughty. Being inflammatory.
Joke will be lost on some people and others will.
Yeah, understand. Some people will know what the joke is and some people won't. But stop being inflammatory, guys. Veil of silence. So Jay says you're so right, guys. Restraint on this is key, and it is. So it's really, really smart. And you know, like I said, I think Sean does it really, really well, and Matt, you do it really well in the sense that you use them to accrue the benefits. Yes, it's not what the credit card companies want or anything like that. They're just waiting there with their, you know, sort of net, waiting for somebody's cash flow to muck up so they can get all that juicy interest at some point. But at the same time, if you do, you know, again, it's not financial advice, but if you do find yourself in that position, it's better to be able to sleep at night and accept the fact that, you know, you're just going to have to pay something off as a minimum for a certain amount of time. And then get back into it. So, you know, always look objectively and think about it very differently. So, Sean says, imagine getting suspended. How will you pay your debts on time? Yeah, that's a big worry, definitely. But I think with the new health assurance coming in, that's going to give people a lot of reassurance in terms of not having that instant suspension. But we were suspended for 8 days, right? 8 days. That's how long we were suspended for. And I will put myself out there and say, I think because of my connections in the business, knowing people and doing things, I think we got reinstated a lot quicker than we ordinarily would have done. I think we were looking at a month suspension on if I wasn't getting the tips and tricks and everything like that through the people that I know, you know, who I've, you know, formed relationships with and networked with over the years. But I do think that just being suspended for 8 days, it'd be interesting to hear Matt Cromie's thoughts on this. But I think that's probably having or going to have about a 6-week impact on our business, maybe a little bit more. So a month, you know, you could be looking at a quarter that it affects you for. So again, something you've very much got to deal with. And, you know, it's not our only Amazon income stream, you know, luckily, so we don't feel it that much. But as I've said, it's our highest margin one. So it's the one with the biggest level of profit comes from. So it's, you know, it's one of those things that you do have to take into consideration. But I do think Amazon, believe it or not, I'm going to give them a little bit of credit here. I think one of the biggest things that's going to propel people's businesses over the next 12 months is going to be the introduction of the Amazon Health Assurance, because it's going to give people that security that you're not going to get an instant suspension. You're not going to wake up one morning to the dreaded email. You're going to get pre-warned, you're going to get the opportunity to sort it out. And anyone that I know that has the Amazon account health assurance at the moment has not been suspended. And like I said, it's only a few people that I know that have been in that situation, but they would have been suspended otherwise. So it's definitely something that, yeah, I think that's going to give a lot of people more security, and yeah, a bit more of a warm hug about being able to scale businesses.
I think they had to, though, didn't they? I think the problem was there was people were really reluctant to invest in Amazon because there was always a fear, and I don't think Amazon. I think Amazon totally misunderstood how impactful it was. Just the fear of it. To them, it's just like, oh yeah, but it's just an issue. We'll get, and it's just part of selling on Amazon. It's like, but people like, but it's a prohibitive to selling on Amazon. People are terrified of this happening. And I don't think it took Amazon years to realize how actually impactful it was to their business.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. David says, bounce back loan did me well. Don't really need it now as it's so low interest, but I'm keeping it and taking it to the full term. I think that's a sensible decision for a lot of people. We are never going to get money that cheap or that free again. So, I think for anyone that took advantage of that, I think, I think you were kind of crazy not to, again, without that being kind of
financial pay that back early if you've got any other debts as well. If you've got any other borrowings, you'd be better to keep the cash in the business and use that to pay some other high interest debt, credit cards or whatever, than pay the bounce back loan early.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I've taken this first start of this year, and again, this is quite a blanket statement, so don't shoot me down for this, guys, is because there was so much doom and gloom being talked about at the start of the year, and people had taken out big kind of bounce back loans and how are we going to pay them back and how are we going to do this. But by our own admission, by everyone across the board, I think most people have realized as it stands, and I'm not saying nothing's going to change in the future, but it hasn't been as doomy and gloomy as we thought we were going to be. So a lot of people were worried about, how am I going to pay loans? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Whereas actually the sales have kind of continued to happen at, relatively good margins. I'm probably not talking to you if you are fully in deal sheet vanilla arbitrage. You're probably thinking, what the hell is she talking about, essentially? But if you are doing things outside of that particular model, or that model and adding additional income streams in through various different models or different marketplaces or whatever, then you'll probably agree with what I've just said. But if you are deal sheet vanilla arbitrage, then probably not, because obviously that's the lowest hanging fruit. I hate to say it, but it is. So that's where people are getting punished the most, in terms of what's happening at the moment. So just going back to Scott, when's that coming out? I think the beta's just started, and you have to have 6 months of scores over 250 on your account health points. So for anyone in the UK, it's probably going to be a minimum of, well, I think it came out last month, so probably about like 5 months from now, really.
It's on our account, but I think it's on account by account basis, isn't it? I think it came on ours in February.
Yeah, some people haven't even just got the some people haven't just got the beta yet. So anytime in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Scott said, can you say that again about deal sheets? Don't know if I should. No, I'm just sort of like saying, if you are just fully reliant on deal sheets in terms of scaling your business at this moment in time, where price tanking is so high and there is quite a lot of saturation, then it's probably, unless you're running a very high volume, low margin, then you might not have had the best start to this year, just due to the saturation and people panicking and things like that. But of course, I did say it's a generalistic statement. It's not going to apply for everyone. So that's the case. We just want to make sure that we're introducing as many different strategies and selling models, to everyone as we can. Johnny says, actually, I'll come back to John in a moment. Sean says, I've got money now. I don't need wages again until March 2024. I want to know how Sean lives, to be honest. I know he lives his best life on all of his arbitrage benefits for sure. This means I can keep flipping money over and over and over again as well as multiple income streams. Absolutely. That's for sure. Johnny says moving from Royal Mail to Amazon shipping helped with my cash flow significantly. Went from direct debit payments from the bank every 14 days to about 74 days with better terms and credit card payments. Basically, a 40K or so cash flow improvement. Improving credit terms with suppliers should be priority before getting that massive Amazon loan. I completely agree. So Matt Cromie has just done this in our business. He's cancelled the direct debits and gone to certain terms with our carriers because what was happening is that the direct debit money was coming out every, well, I don't know, 30 days or something. It was clearing the balance every time. But actually, when we realized that we were actually getting around 80 days, or we can have 80 days credit on certain payments. So he's just gone through and done that. So it's definitely worth considering if you have the option to be able to do it for sure. Okay. Low liabilities. I live with within my means. Yeah. Free energy, free food. Got to pay the council tax this month. Boo-hoo. Them the breaks, I'm afraid, Sean. Definitely. So, yeah. Oh gosh, it's 2:10 already. Time flies. It's like you're in a time portal when you're on Nevermind the Buy Box. Unless you don't like listening to the sound of our voice, then it's going to go really long for you. But I think there was one other thing. Oh, I know what we wanted to cover. Just one other thing before we go. I'm not sure if anyone's aware that we've been doing some different types of, masterclasses and things like that lately. So Matt has been hardworking and he's actually set up like a shop. Is it a shop on our website or something?
It's called a store. Yeah, we've got a store.
Oh, fancy. There we go. And so it's something that if anybody, what we do is we're probably going to do less masterclasses moving forward because obviously we've got the Hive and that's going to be our main focus. So from that point of view, what we do is we've got a few offers up on there lately for, if you don't want to join the Hive and you just want to buy the one-off masterclass or something like that, you can do that. So Matt's got the link for you. And I think, are we running an Easter special or did I get that wrong?
Yes. But did we decide what the Easter special was?
No. Okay, well, that was news to Matt. So I know we did discuss it, but I couldn't remember. If you want to maybe do a post later.
So we'll agree. Yeah, we'll do an Easter deal. We'll do a post with the content, and we'll do some deal for you guys if anyone's interested over Easter, if you've got some spare time and want to learn. I just want to clarify a few things as well, because I know I've got a few comments in the group. So I know we've got kind of a few different things going on. People were getting a bit confused about the Hive and things like that. So just to clarify, so never mind the buyback, because that's obviously the name of our live, and that's just our live completely free content. We have guests on, and hopefully we deliver a lot of value for that. No charge, no upsells, no nothing in that respect. So the Ecom Inner Circle, that's kind of our main group, and that's our website, and that's kind of our brand. And then the Hive is essentially a paid-for subscription group that we run, and we deliver a lot of content through there. You get priority access to ourselves in the group, and we answer questions as well. We do weekly lives and content drops every week. Sometimes we do one-off sourcing sessions as well. So we're delivering a really good library of content through the Hive. With the masterclasses, so the masterclasses that are being put on the website now are ones that we ran before we started the Hive. So we haven't really made a decision about the masterclasses going forwards. If we will continue the masterclasses, or we will just deliver the masterclass content through the Hive. So the masterclasses that are available are kind of really recordings for people who've missed them. So I don't want any kind of confusion there as to what we're doing with the masterclasses and the Hive. And eventually all the masterclass content will be taught through the Hive. It won't be available through the Hive, it will be taught through the Hive, but it won't be necessarily on schedule, if that makes sense. We've got a schedule in the Hive. We're doing bundles at the moment, and the next topic's going to be EU. And then the wholesale will be taught later in the year as well. So it depends on what you're interested in as to what we're going through for that. But if you're really keen and would like to buy our one-off offers without necessarily joining the Hive, then we'll put the offers on for the shop as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got
That
advice.
said very eloquently. Thank you, Matt. Much more to the point than I could have done. We would have still been here 20 minutes later with me explaining that to go back through. Just a couple of extra top tips then from our top contributors. Cindy has said, I have a tip: pay your PPC with a credit card, get the points, and have more time to pay. Love it. Loving these tips. I feel like this is Martin money saving tips today. Definitely. Matt Cromie says Amex payment due date and when the
Yes.
direct debit is taken can be 10 days too early, but it's a risky game if you forget. So again, Matt is anal about paying credit cards and things like that. So that works quite well for us.
But
Left up to me.
It's
No
funny,
chance.
the opposite's true with HMRC. So if you're paying your VAT bill, if you pay by direct debit, you actually get 3 days extra, because what they do is they set the direct debit up on the date it's due, and then they collect it 3 days later. Whereas with a card payment, you have to pay on the day it's due, or you have to pay. So actually, with a card payment, you actually have to pay 3 days early because it has to be received in their bank on the 7th. Whereas with the VAT on direct debit, it's actually set up on the 7th, and then 3 days later. So you actually get a little bit of an extension for direct debit for HMRC. It's the only one that actually usually extends direct debit dates.
Yeah, absolutely. So just going back to your comment about, like I said, we do appreciate a lot of content has gone out in the last couple of weeks in particular, obviously with the Monetize Your Knowledge masterclass with the Hive. If you are a former member of like ESA or, never mind the buy box and everything like that, we are just content machines. So what we'll do is we'll have a look, depending on which group you're in, to ensure that you guys know what's coming up over the next month. But just keep an eye on the events in the pin section of the group. I'll always try and make sure I've got the next month covered so everyone knows when everything is. I don't know if there's anything else we can implement from that point of view. Maybe I'll do I used to do like a physical post schedule as well. So I think I'll do that so everyone knows where they are. But again, it's the reason why, we built the Hive, and the decision I made with ESA is there was just too much content coming from too many different angles, and I wasn't physically able to keep up with it all, or I could, but it wouldn't have been as good. Essentially I felt I was, it would be detrimental to the content that I would produce. So obviously that's something we have taken on feedback, and we will definitely make sure that we do our best to signpost everybody about when important dates are coming up, because we don't want people feeling like they're getting left behind or anything like that. So just a quick recap if you're watching. Never mind the buy box is on Tuesday at 1 o'clock, completely free. Like Matt says, we often, chit chat, but hopefully you guys get some good value off of this. The Hive lives are 7 o'clock on Tuesday as it stands at the moment. We still haven't made a choice whether or not that will be the permanent day moving forward. So if you are part of the Hive, Hive Live is every 7 o'clock on every Tuesday. And then we tend to have content drops in the Hive once a week whilst we're on a specific subject, but it's personal choice of the trainer delivering it. So say, for instance, once we finish the bundle training, Matt might decide that he prefers to do his training live, deliver it live. So therefore it will be on the Hive Live section. So but of course
the EU stuff will probably be delivered live due to the number of expected questions. I think it'd be easy to deliver that live.
Cindy said, when does the podcast start?
I'm waiting for Apple to approve us. We're having trouble getting Apple to approve it. The actual podcast is done, but Apple won't approve the feed.
Oh, and we're going to start uploading YouTube videos as well. So like I said, contents, guys, is definitely not going to be an issue. Just some children dying in the garden. But yeah, content is not going to be an issue. But yes, I definitely accept that we need to do a better job with keeping everybody up to date with what's going on and when. The only one we can't control is Johnny's late night love sourcing sessions, where Johnny's just going to pop up and kind of go through those in the Hive. But I think that's pretty cool, and it suits it for sure. So yes, we do need to keep you better informed, so we'll definitely make sure that goes to the top of the priority list as well. So lots of invites and everything going on. So keep tuned for Never Mind the Buy Books next couple of weeks. Like I said, next week we've got Hayden joining us, and we're going to talk about all things mindset. Week after that, haven't sent the invites out yet. I'll do it in a couple of days. I actually have my brother-in-law coming on, who's going to talk to us about the world of AI, which I'm really super excited about that. Week after that, I think it's Johnny and Matt. And then I have another guest the week after that, who quite a big one. So we're going to be, keeping you guys busy with, lots of content definitely over the next couple of weeks. So, keeping you out of trouble, keeping us out of trouble.
That's it, yeah.
For sure. So thanks for tuning in, guys. If you are watching via YouTube, or if you are not watching via YouTube, get on YouTube. If you can give the stream a thumbs up, and if you could leave a comment on the video and not the chat, that would be very, very helpful for our channel. And just give us your thoughts on the live. And what we're also going to do is we're going to start uploading the lives in the video sections, because I know sometimes they get confused about, is there, has it happened or hasn't it happened? So again, we're on that. So please give us some thumbs up, make us feel like we're real YouTubers. And, I can introduce myself as a YouTuber to my kids' friends' parents, and, and they can be proud of me in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. It's the only reason why I want to be a proper YouTuber. No, I'm joking. So we will see you next week. Keep posting in the group as usual, guys. Enjoy the rest of the Easter bank holiday, or when it starts, essentially. And I hope those eggs are rolling in for everyone. And enjoy those lovely Easter seasonal sales. So I'll see you next week. Have a great week, everyone.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.